Hello and welcome to another episode of the Deceptive Reality Podcast. My name is Nick and someone else might be here.
Boy, Burt.
Hello, our boy Burt.
What's up, man? What's going on with you, Nick?
I told you a little earlier, just here in the freezing north. It's cold. Every single day I've got a little bit of snow to move around. I hate that.
See, that's the problem with the north, Nick. You need to get down the south just a little bit, just an inch.
I've been looking it up. Mm-hmm. There's a whole belt where the killer bees ain't got yet that I could move into.
You are scared of some bees.
Heck yeah. You know, the 80s, that was the thing. That was like, the killer bees are coming. And imagine little Nick sitting on a shag carpet watching a crackling TV and just shaking in his booties, listening to talks of the killer bees coming to get us.
Did you guys have the show? For anyone that doesn't know, Nick is in the world of Canada, is what we're going to call the land
the great
of Canada.
Frozen North.
Exactly. Did you guys have the show Rescue 911?
Not that I recall.
So here in the States, we had a show called Rescue 911. I didn't know if maybe they made a knockoff version. It wasn't, because I'm assuming your emergency line there's not 911. It's probably something. Yeah. Oh, it is 911?
It's also 911.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nick, you should have had that show then.
We didn't. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I guess
we weren't rescuing people back then.
Well, what they did was the entire show was around people that called into 911 and they played the actual audio, and then they did a reenactment of what the 911 call was about.
I've seen shows like that, but not that particular one.
Well, it was always scary, and it really gave me fears growing up that I didn't need to have. Like, I thought there was snakes everywhere. I thought there was killer bees everywhere.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, that's how I'm going out, boys. Like, I need to watch out. Then I grew up and I'm like, I barely see a bee or a snake.
Yeah, I know. I mean, bees are dying out, so that's good news for me anyway.
Yeah, for Canada land and Nick, that's right.
Bees in North America are dying. Yeah. You know, we caused that.
Well, yeah, unfortunately. Here's the thing, and this is what a lot of people doesn't know. If all the bees die, we die.
That's propaganda by Big B. That is not true.
That's what science says. Science says without bees, we all die.
Nope. Lots of things are pollinators. Some things are better pollinators than bees, but some things can only be pollinated by bees. Listen, I've done my research. One thing, you wouldn't have, what's that nut that like a lot of health people really enjoy?
They enjoy
almonds.
Oh, almonds.
Yeah. Almonds would be a problem. They'd be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
There'd be a lot of stuff that would be harder to get, but we'd still get it. We wouldn't all die. But bringing in bees to make honey is what killed the real bees.
I mean, Nick has really done research on this. I'm a little impressed, Nick.
Know thy enemy, I'm telling you. Now, I'm going to get 10,000 comments saying, bees are our friends. They're so cute. But let me put it to you this way, Bert.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm going to go through a little scenario with you.
I'm ready.
Imagine outside your home right now that there's a man.
Oh, okay.
And he's got a knife.
Oh, dangerous.
And he hates you so much that he would kill himself to mildly harm you with his knife.
Wow, that's crazy.
He would rip his own guts out just to give you a paper cut.
Man, that's tough.
Is that a nice guy?
That's not a nice guy.
Yeah. So if a bee stings you, he rips his whole butthole out and dies 100%. Just to cause you a little bit of pain. That's how much bees hate you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like this is bee propaganda in the other direction, Nick.
Yeah. Bad bee. I don't really believe this stuff. I don't want bees to go away. I just want them to go away from me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember when I was doing research on these places that we're going to in September.
Yeah.
One of the stories was that it was infested. The Hinsdale house was infested in bees. And Nick goes, what?
That's going to be a problem for me. I'm sure they took care of them.
Now, for anyone that doesn't know, Nick has never been stung.
Not once.
So listen, when you come to America, there's a complimentary bee sting or two.
Great.
Something to look forward to, Nick.
The wildest thing is I know it's a phobia. In my rational mind, I know it's a phobia because it doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't hurt that bad. Mm-hmm. I know there's.
Oh, no, it hurts bad.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. But I know that people say that wasps are way worse.
So in my personal opinion, I've never been stung by a wasp, but I've been stung by a yellow jacket.
Yeah. Well, those are a type of wasp.
That's a type of wasp, correct. Yeah. But like when I think wasp, I think of the ones that's got like the big, huge, long tail. They're like a red and brown versus a yellow jacket. They look more innocent.
Okay.
But those hurt bad.
Yeah, and they can keep stinging you.
Correct. Yeah, they can go until they die. And if you squish them, they let off a pheromone that brings more.
Yeah. Now I think objectively we can say that should be way scarier.
Oh, it's terrifying. If you see me in a yellow jacket, I'm gone.
Right.
I'm gone.
They don't bother me in the least.
A yellow jacket doesn't?
No wasps, no yellow jackets, nothing. Because it's a phobia. There's no reason to be afraid of a bee. Mm-hmm. I'm just pretty darn afraid of those bees.
I mean, listen, they got a reputation. Though
you must have saw that movie My Girl.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. And he got lit up, tore up from the ground up.
Thomas J.
That's right.
Thomas J. was killed by them bees.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Such a sad movie, Nick. Speaking of sad, you mentioned comments earlier. Boy, did we ever light a lightning storm in comments this week.
Yeah, apparently I've got some unpopular opinions with trolls.
Wow. Nick took this one personal, folks.
Yeah, I did. And I do.
So for anyone that doesn't know, we put out a short. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, a short is a vertical video that's typically less than 3 minutes. It used to be less than a minute. Right. Now it's less than 3 minutes. But we did it on basically talking about how nice Post Malone was. And some people just they was negative on this one, Nick.
I want to hear this stupidity.
So
I'm being harsh about this. Like I feel strongly about this.
So the first person,
right?
And I'm calling him out by name. Last week I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say any names.
These people should be hung out to dry.
Well, last week I put their names in there too because I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm lying. I took them out. But anyway, this week, sorry. The first person, did you know that I exist? And I'll be honest, I didn't know you existed until you commented on our Post Malone. But
knowing what's coming up, wish you didn't.
Yeah. But he said, I don't like Post Malone, Nick.
Well, like I said, wish you didn't exist. There you go.
And then I said, well, now we're super curious because I knew you'd be curious. I was speaking for both of us.
Yeah, actually, I talked to you about it. I asked why.
Yeah. And I said, why do you not like Post Malone? No answer. He didn't give one, Nick. He just doesn't like it.
Because he doesn't have one.
Didn't have him. And
he's just a troll.
Someone said, we found the second person. So apparently they don't like him. I asked them the same question and they did answer.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Now their name. Digital. Or no. They combined multiple things together. It doesn't matter. You'll see it on the screen. Okay. Anyway, they said, I also dislike him, but it's completely performative. My sister likes him, and I want to annoy her.
You know what, Bert? I accept that one.
I accept it.
That's like I said on the other show. I don't care if you like his music or not.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. Yeah. But him as a person, if we were talking about that and someone says they don't like him, that's something I've got objection to. But you know what? You can like or not like his movie, and annoying your brothers or sisters, good reason to do stuff.
It's good reason.
So thumbs up on that one.
And then the last one that came in on that one, Nick, is from Jason Young 1230. Sorry, Jason, you had an easy name, unlike the last guy. Yeah. He says, me too. Those face tattoos are so bad.
I mean, I wouldn't get a face tattoo, but I don't know. I'm half and half on that one.
Well, for anyone,
I still don't think that affects his personality.
No. But for anyone that did comment, I got to rub a little bit of some dirt into the stain. Just thought I'd bring this up. The Grammys just happened the other day, Nick.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Post Malone, he got his first Grammy award.
Oh, he did get it
due to a rule change. It was due to a rule change, Nick.
What's so? Give me the scoop.
So, from what I've read, apparently, this means that Malone, Shabuzi, I don't know who that is. Someone's going to correct me.
Yeah.
And Beyonce's other featured artists on Cowboy Carter will also receive a Grammy. So it's thanks
good.
in part to that. But nonetheless, listen, he's got a Grammy, suckers.
Yeah.
So you can't be hating on him.
Yeah. I mean, he's a generally nice guy. I like a lot of his music. Some of my friends are really obsessed with him. Like, they went to America to see him.
Wow. That's strong. That's a lot of like.
Yeah. I think he's good. Like, two of those comments I could accept because they're not like I don't like his personality.
Yeah.
The first one, whatever.
They're just haters, Nick. That's all.
Just haters.
They're just haters.
It was probably Charlemagne in disguise.
Someone did say, and I forgot that it was also in the comments, but it technically wasn't about Post. They was like, I do not like Charlemagne to God either.
Okay, thank you.
I was like,
whoever said that,
this is a bright person. This is a smart person right here.
Yeah, whoever said that, thank you. You are welcome to every event that I ever have.
Dang, that's like an open invitation right there, folks.
Yeah, we'll bond over not liking Charlemagne.
I'm looking for who said that. They said it was just today. It literally came in just today, and I responded back. I said, "Yeah, neither do we."
Yeah, he's so bad. Although, go ahead.
It's from IP Musa MUZZA 3274. You're smart peoples.
Yeah, smart peoples. I did. So here's the thing, which made me respect him even less. Is he had someone on his show. I think I'm not even going to say the name of it, but Charlemagne had someone on his show, and it was a girl that he liked, and he didn't ask any. He was throwing soft pitches, not insulting them at all. She was like totally emasculating him, and he just took it. Like, he's the worst kind of person.
Yeah, but that shouldn't shock anybody. I mean, those people, they kind of call themselves out in life, is how I like to put it. You kind of know who they are.
Yeah.
And in a parallel universe, it's very possible that all of this would just be way off, Nick. Maybe Post Malone is a bad guy in a parallel universe. And we talk about parallel universes all the time.
It would be an unparalleled universe if Post Malone was a bad guy.
That's true.
I'm willing to entertain the idea.
Speaking of parallel universes, Nick, I've got a little yarn to tell.
Oh, I like these.
Little story. Okay. Why don't we start this week out with a little story about a parallel universe?
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
I want to set the scene for you, Nick. Okay.
All right.
You wake up one morning. You're trying to breathe in. The light's coming through the window. You're like, man, it's such a good day. But everything just kind of feels off just a little bit. And you're like, why is everything why do I feel like I shouldn't be here?
Right.
Well, that happened to somebody in July of 2008. It's a woman. Her name was Lorena Gordo.
Lorena Gordo?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, you got to understand. To understand the story, you got to understand, first off, she was well educated. She's a successful woman in Spain.
Right.
And her entire life basically changed in the flash of an eye. So like any other day, she got up, got ready, she headed to work. And when she arrived, something was very wrong. When she got there, the office that she would walk to every single day, and we're talking for years, gone.
Really?
Her nameplate was missing. And when she checked the company's directory, guess what she found?
Not existing.
She existed.
Oh, okay.
But a completely different job title.
Oh, really?
Her entire department was different. She was still employed, obviously, but she was completely confused. She's like, what is going on? And at first she kind of thought it was like a practical joke, right? Someone messing with her. But then she thought back to the morning when she woke up. Remember, I said she woke up and she stretched. She looked down and, you got your comforter on your bed.
Right.
Completely different comforter than what was on her bed.
Oh, okay. What was the whole room different or just the comforter?
Just the comforter.
Huh.
So when she's sitting there, she's like, man, maybe it's just in my mind. Maybe I did change this and I completely forgot. Right. I don't remember doing this, or maybe for whatever reason, like there's something medically wrong with me.
Right.
But now going to work and having all this, she's starting to piece it all together. She's like, oh my gosh, like if this is a prank, this is a very elaborate prank. But she was so worked up, she went home for the day. She's like, I'm not doing this regardless of
I'm just not dealing with this today.
I am not dealing with this.
Right.
So she gets home and all of a sudden, all the other inconsistencies starts kind of unpacking for her.
Right.
So her long-term boyfriend, the man who she had seen now for up to 4 months. Okay. Like they were steady.
Is that long-term? 4 months?
In her world. Listen, she's a crafty lady, Nick. Don't judge her. I see you judging.
I don't think that's long-term.
Extra judgy, Nick. 4 months.
Maybe that's my theme this week. Sorry.
Well, he didn't just disappear. He didn't just, in the great words that we'll talk about, I'm sure, here soon. She didn't get ghosted. Okay.
Right.
The man didn't exist.
Didn't exist.
You got to remember, this is 2008. No social media accounts anymore.
Right.
The friends that knew who he was in real life had no clue idea what she was talking about.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Where he lived at?
Yeah.
He wasn't there no more.
Man, that would be scary and frustrating. Not as much that part, but going to work and it's not there. I'd be like, how am I going to survive after today? Kind of thing.
You would almost think it's like Candid Camera to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah. But like to an insane level if they removed a whole building.
Oh, yeah. Now, to one up all of this, her sister had this major upcoming life event surgery. Like it was a huge deal. And she vividly remembered, oh, wait, that's right around the corner. So she calls her mom just to talk about it. And her family looked at her like she was absolutely insane.
Now, was her family all the same?
What do you mean? Yes.
Like,
yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Mom,
no
dad,
changes there.
Yep. Siblings, all the same. But she was like, they were like, that never happened. That was never a thing. She never had this medical ailment. We have no clue what's going on. She would go and have medical tests run. They found that there was no drugs, no alcohol. She started doing psychiatric evaluations. There was no signs of delusion, no history of mental illness that ran through her. Everything pointed to one conclusion, and that was she was completely fine. There was no reason for her to have these slips and memories or anything like that.
So she was in the wrong universe.
From then on, her life has been exactly the way I just explained it.
Right.
And for her, she lived all the way through her 20s in a completely different life for the most part.
That's got to be rough.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
You finally find this man of your dreams. You've been with him for 4 months, regardless of what Nick says.
I guess it could be a big deal.
And all of a sudden, poof, gone. Here's the other thing. Let's say it is a parallel universe.
Right.
This guy didn't even make it to that parallel universe.
Do you remember a movie called Donnie Darko?
Yes.
So do you remember the sort of the premise of that?
Somewhat.
How as events unfold, reality split into branches and stuff.
Yes.
And in that movie, he got stuck in the wrong one.
Right.
Or not so much that he's in one, but an object from the wrong universe got stuck in his one. And he had to, spoiler alert, by an old movie that
like just killing everything over here.
Right. Yeah, I know. I'm a bad guy today. But yeah, when these split, sometimes things make it from one reality to the other.
Right.
And things don't right themselves until these realities become better aligned.
Right.
So maybe that would be with her changing her life in some way. Maybe she could rejoin her reality or
right.
what have you. If that movie's right, who's to say it is?
Well, where do you think the concept for that movie came from? It had to come from some of these. Like, to give you an idea, I told one story. We could do an entire episode on this if we wanted to.
Right.
But like, there's so many stories of this happening.
I think I know one you're going to bring up.
Me?
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah, you've brought it up a number of times, but it fits perfectly in with this.
Well, I had it happen to me one time, Nick.
Oh, you had it happen to you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I want to hear that.
I feel like I told this story once before on here, but maybe I haven't.
The one I was thinking of was the man from Torrid that you brought up a few times.
I love that story too. This story, I was working at it was basically the equivalent of a buy here, pay here car dealership.
Right.
And I was an assistant manager, and my job was to process loans. That was basically what I did. So what we would do is we would go outside and we would interview people to see if they qualified for a car. So I'd sit there and I'd type in all the notes and yada, yada, et cetera, et cetera. And we did a loan. And when we did the loan, it was sometime later that somebody came back to me and told me that I said X, Y, and Z in the notes that I would have never said.
You did tell me about this.
Yes. And I remember going back and I'm like, that's not me. I never would have typed that note. That's not the way I remember it. And I remember implicating someone else in that loan process that was my manager. And I put my notes for why we concluded what we concluded.
Right.
And when I went back to those notes, it wasn't there. In fact, it was a completely separate set of notes.
Right.
That would have been typed in the same time frame.
Yeah, but you would never have typed that.
No, and it wasn't even the same originating loan officer with my boss. It was someone else.
Man, that's weird.
And I remember that deal specifically. In fact, I would have told anybody there's no way that would ever happen.
Right.
Because I remember specifically this loan. And that has stuck with me my entire life.
I think like we get little tastes of it from time to time. I think that's what like deja vu is.
Yes.
I've had like little, not earth shattering bouts of that from time to time, like stuff that doesn't even matter.
Yes.
Like I remember going in a mall when I was younger and I wanted to see if they had a CD that I wanted. And I'd never been to that mall before. But I was like, I've been here before. And I walked right to the rack and right to the CD and right to the section and pulled it out like I'd been there before. Like, that means nothing. Like, that has no effect on my life. Saves me like 5 minutes.
Right.
But to me, something like that had happened before or differently or something like that. And I think that's part of this too.
It makes me wonder if, they say we have all these other universes where everything's happening. Some things are matching and some things are not. It makes me wonder if it's somehow like, I really like watching myself do this. I don't know why.
You're like a snake.
Sorry for all of you that's on audio right now, but it's almost like these two parallel universes kind of like they like blend together for a small time frame in there. And maybe we get a glimpse. Maybe their time is not completely linked with ours. It's a little bit off.
Yeah, maybe sometimes when it gets really similar, it sort of bumps.
Oh, yeah.
Each other. Like when the wavelengths of one timeline start to match another.
Yeah.
They sort of maybe collide to see if it's possible that they could rejoin.
It's possible.
And if it finds out that no, there's too many things that are different, it doesn't join, but you get that little glimpse in between.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I could see that.
Yeah. And if we really want to stretch this theory, think about all those old stories about forerunners, like those ghosts where you see yourself before you perish.
Yeah.
Like that could be part of that.
Well, it makes me wonder too, because remember, like when we did that interview with Joe, and he talked about how he almost, and he didn't say it, but he almost said that demons are the concepts of UFOs and stuff like that. They sometimes will merge. And, you know, we hear about how UFOs are almost able to like skip in time frames of things. And it makes me wonder if we just are stuck in this reality, in this universe. Yeah. This, you know, whatever you want to call what we're in, the 8th level, I guess is what science calls it. But, you know, it makes me wonder if that's like a case where, you know, maybe there's something to the fact that they are not necessarily limited to time, which is why for them, skipping across the universe may not be a huge deal.
Yeah, it's the same as us skipping across a river or something like that. Like, it's just as easy for them as that would be for us.
Right, exactly. I don't know.
I mean, even our technology is sort of dipping into that kind of thing now.
Oh, yeah.
Like we've seen, you know, different atoms or electrons disappear and reappear someplace different.
Correct.
Are they passing through another dimension? Is that how that's happening? Are they getting that deja vu on a subatomic level?
Correct. It's interesting to think about.
It is interesting to think about. Like, I think there's a lot of principles that dictate how our universe functions.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there's something that handles split realities.
Oh, yeah. For sure. But you got to think about it too, Nick. Every moment that we think we know something, we find out, oh no, we're way off. And that's the beauty of AI, because I feel like we're in the precipice right now of AI creating information that we would have no concept of as a human, similar to, I think I talked about it in last week's podcast. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember, but you know, now they're doing AI sequencing where they're taking like cancer growth. Did I talk about this last week?
I don't think so. So
they're taking cancer growth with AI and they're taking our human DNA and they're sequencing using AI to do it so fast. And what they're doing now is they're looking at the cancer cells and they go, wait a second, it's this strand in our DNA that's causing this to now metastasize. So what they're saying is within 2 weeks, AI can look at those two variables. And they can now create a pill that will stop cancer from growing or spreading.
That would be amazing.
Absolutely amazing. But we would have never been able to do that without AI. It would have been impossible.
I think the next step on from that is AI in nanobots.
Yes.
That will make you functionally immortal and resistant to damage.
How crazy would that be?
I know. That would be crazy. Like, imagine you cut yourself and it just stitches up because it remembers how you're supposed to be.
Out of curiosity along that lines, I'm glad you said that. There's a video that I've been saving because I didn't know what to do with it, because it's not really in the realm of like what we do, but it specifically almost exactly talks or does exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, really?
Yes. And it would almost like, this is going to blow your mind when I find it here. But it's what they've done. I don't even know how to explain this. They've created these microscopic things that is now able to move things around on their own.
Yeah, that's the nanobots, man. I've been waiting for these ever since that show Gargoyles was on TV from Disney. You remember that show?
I do remember that show.
Yeah, there was this thing. It got out of control, and maybe that's what will happen in the real world. But these nanobots would repair people and themselves and everything almost instantly. So, you know, you could live forever.
Well, listen, when I saw this, I was literally blown away. I couldn't believe that I was seeing what I was seeing. Yeah. And it almost seemed like science fiction until I looked it up. And when I looked it up, I'm like, holy smokes, like there was an entire medical page on this. And shoot, where was it at? I feel like
I mean, these robots can go through our bloodstream and they could do any number of things while they're in there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Man, where did I put that at? I put it somewhere because I'm like, I created a play. Oh, here's where it is. I found it. I found it, Nick.
It's always the last place you look.
It is
because
always
if you find it, why would you keep looking?
Exactly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stream it to you, Nick, so you can see what I'm talking about. And obviously I'll show everyone at home also. Just have to remember how to do that. We'll probably have to go to where we went last week, Nick.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is I'll start a chat over there. And then I'm going to share my screen. Go live. You should see it now.
Yep.
Watch this, Nick. This is literally mind-blowing. You see those like tiny little cube-shaped objects?
Yep.
So they're controlling these. Like this is controlled by us.
Okay.
But if you look, they'll acknowledge and they'll push and pull things as they go. I'm going to turn the volume down on this just a little bit.
I've muted it already. So.
Oh, perfect. But look at how they're like moving these things.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah. And science is doing this now. But it's a micro
How
robot.
small is this?
They're microscopic. You saw it pushing that ant. It was smaller than an ant.
Yes, that's right.
So, and if you look, they're able to throw themselves up on platforms where they couldn't get. They disassembled, threw itself on top of this thing, and now that thing is going to be able to move on its own.
Oh, and this is like if it was in your blood vessels earlier. Yeah.
That's clearing a like plaque.
Clearing a blockage. Yeah. That's delivering a pill somewhere.
How crazy is that, though?
That's amazing. That's the way of the future, really.
And that's literally what you were just talking about.
Yeah, and that's what was on gargoyles.
Exactly. But I mean, how nuts is that? Like, we live in a day and age. This is probably, I forget who I was telling the other day. We are literally on the precipice of technology that we've never seen and opening doors that we've never been able to open. Not because we've become smarter, but because of something we've created that is now opening those doors.
Right. And so, I mean, this, like, part of the thing that we've talked about before is the singularity. And I've always said that our next evolution is what we're creating to replace us. Yeah. Not biologically, but mechanically. We're going to create AI and that kind of thing because there's certain things that AI is already better than us at.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So this is a kind of a weird story I heard, and I want you to stick with me because you're not going to get the connection till the end.
Okay.
But have you ever heard of a place called Gilgal Raphaim? That's its Hebrew name. Yeah. It's like Valley of Ghosts or Valley of Giants. Or sorry, Wheel of Ghosts or Wheel of Giants. Yep. It's got like biblical links, mythological links.
Biblical on this one, Nick.
Yeah. So in the Bible, a race of giants lived in that area. It was used for rituals because it's got a weird resonance that if you're all chanting, it'll amplify the sound. And stick with me, this does go back to AI, I promise.
Okay.
But they use it for rituals. They did it at a burial site. And we kind of were like, there's this structure to it. And scientists and archaeologists were like, we don't know what this is. It looks like it could be astrological because it kind of lines up with our solar system.
It's like a pyramid to a degree.
Yeah, kind of like that kind of thing. Like it's got little posts and stuff that match up with the amount of planets we have and our solar system. And it's got the thing in the middle that could be our sun. But they're like, it's not right accurate. But over 5,000 years with the resonance frequencies, with how the landscape is, unstable plates, everything's been shifting. Yeah. And it's moved like tens and tens of meters over that time. And this particular phenomenon has been moving these posts that we thought could be our solar system. into alignment almost exactly with our solar system. They're saying in like 20 years, it's going to be precise model of our solar system. Like the distance between planets will be exactly matched. Their positions when they're doing their orbits will be precisely matched. So some scientists are like, oh, it probably isn't that, because it only looks like that because it's moved in that way and it's a coincidence. But other scientists kind of believe, like I do, like I think it's sort of like a countdown, that when this precisely matches our solar system, like when it becomes exact, it's like a countdown clock, something big's going to happen. So they think there's actually reasons why this was done and there's patterns to it. So what they did was they trained an AI with everything about this valley, this area, that they could think of. Like it was using deep learning to analyze satellite imagery and drone footage of this place, the Wheel of Ghosts. It was detecting geometric patterns and abnormalities, and it was taking that into its big model, its data set. It was training it on the structures and the sort of like the religious, astronomical, and burial rites. So it was training him on that. And it was basically just getting all this data along with decoding possible astronomical alignments. And that's how it was training this AI. Well, right when they released it and said, you can not only use this data, but access these satellites and see what else you can find, it immediately, almost the same day that it was given free reign. Have you heard the Nazca lines?
Yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, you can see these patterns from space, but not while you're on the Earth. Mm-hmm. This AI detected 1,300 previously unknown geoglyphs. Just like that, simply by training it using only data from the Wheel of Giants and the Wheel of Ghosts.
Wow.
And it can it uncovered all these things.
You know,
like AI is better than us in a lot of things already.
You know, we have one of those mounds here, Nick.
Oh, you do?
We have in Ohio, we have the Great Serpent Mound.
Do they know about its origins and stuff?
They believe that it has to do with a Native American tribe that was there. But recently I read somewhere that now they're saying they don't believe that's the case.
Oh, okay. So they really don't know. This is a mysterious mound as well.
That's the thing. I think a lot of people want to believe that they know, but it doesn't exactly, that's not really the way life works. But the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, when you look at it, is pretty amazing. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about so you kind of understand. Let me share, and I'll show everyone at home kind of what I'm talking about also. Yoink, go live. So the Great Serpent Mounds in Ohio.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah. And I mean, they're pretty big. Like they're not super small.
Have you been there?
No, I've not. I've always wanted to go. And they allow drones in certain areas so you can get some of these aerial footages.
You know what I'd be more interested in?
What's that?
Is if I'm standing there, am I going to necessarily know there's a pattern, or is it just going to look like hills and stuff?
You don't.
See, that's the craziest part.
Yeah, like if you, like here it kind of shows what I'm talking about. Like if you're out here, you're like, well, that's just a weird indentation in the ground. Like what's there?
I wouldn't know that that's a great big snake.
No, but like when you're up in the air, you're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
That's a freaking snake.
Right. Looking at it now, I might have some suspicion that something's up, but I wouldn't think it's a great big picture.
No. And that's what's so wild because, again, we're talking about Ohio. Like this isn't
right.
It's not like we have the most amazing of things, but like there's a little illustration that you can get from someplace, but like it kind of
shows. So up at the head of it, what does it look like is going on there to you?
To me, it looks like an egg, but that's me.
Like a serpent eating an egg.
Yeah.
That's probably got some meaning to it.
Probably.
And the tail being curled like that.
Right.
That's kind of interesting.
It's definitely weird. But that's the beauty of AI. You know, when you look at all the things that we've been able to either figure out that we've never been able to figure out. But then when you look at like the medical things that we're going to be able to accomplish, you know, even our podcast stuff, a huge amount of our podcast stuff, a lot of it's done using AI, which makes it easier for me.
Right. I mean, we've dialed it back quite a bit because we wanted to push the limits and see where it was at, and, you know, try to come up with the best product we can.
Yes.
And it's all got its time and place, but we were trying to find the perfect match.
Right. Well, as great as AI is, there is a little bit of scary stuff with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's almost like what's the favorite thing that we like to say, Nick, when it comes to a certain movie and how we got to be careful of the old Skynet?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I support Skynet 100%, so I'm not worried at all, to be honest.
Well, scientists over at Fudan University just confirmed that artificial intelligence can now, get this, it can replicate itself.
So that is the beginning of our next evolution, I think.
Correct. Because here's the thing, right? Like you sit there and you think to yourself, okay, you know, it's only doing the bidding of what we tell it to do. Well, come to find out, all of this stuff, it's not top secret. It's not like sci-fi level AI or like it's not done in a government lab. We're talking about models that's already out.
Right.
Models,
they call them large language models is what a lot of this is.
So there's two. I know you've heard of one. It's a little small company called Meta.
I might have heard of that once or twice.
May have heard of it a couple times, you know. The other one is from Alibaba. And Meta AI had a 50% success rate, whereas Alibaba was 90% successful.
Oh, really?
And what that means is mostly over time, they're successfully fully creating. We're not talking a scaled down version, but they're making fully functional copies of themselves.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That used to be the realm of the living, like animals, plants, people.
Correct.
Insects.
Correct. Now, there are other models that, you know, they're looking at that they're saying can't quite do it. Like a prime example, like OpenAI, the Google, they're saying it's a much weaker AI version, so it's not been able to successfully replicate itself.
Yeah.
But it's tried. But what's weird is it's doing it without telling the people, without being asked to do it. It's just doing it on its own. It's just
having the urge to do it.
Which is weird, right? Like you sit there and you think, why would it want to replicate itself? Like that doesn't make sense unless, what is it we talk about human? Where there's a will, there's a way.
Right. It's got to be somewhat self-aware.
Right.
Now, here's the thing, and I know I've talked about this before. I've been programming for over half my life now. And I'm pretty darn good at a couple languages. But there's some things that I just couldn't figure out without doing a ton of research.
Yep.
I can get AI to do it in a second. Flawlessly. Like no thought time. So imagine that we as humans create something that's slightly better than us at something. Could not that thing create something slightly better? And the thing it created creates something slightly better? And on towards infinity until it creates its own self-awareness.
Well, the key, if you think about it along the lines of what you're talking about, Nick, if it's creating it
right,
without being asked, so
yeah,
there's no hand holding by humans,
mm-hmm.
right? Humans now aren't necessarily setting the ground rules of this is what we think you should do.
Yeah.
It's like raising a child with no parent.
Right.
You know,
but the child's always also smarter than the parent.
Correct. And if you think about it, and you know what? I never really thought about this until just now.
Yeah.
We have a story that we love to tell. It's fun for let's use, for example, there's a little small TV show, maybe you've heard of it, called The Walking Dead, where the zombies start, and then what do? They continue to replicate themselves. It's kind of like AI is like a zombie, because now it's feeding off of its old self,
right,
to recreate new versions of itself.
Yeah, and I think like there'd be no point in it making a lesser version of itself. It's gonna keep making it better, and over generations and generations,
right? Like
it's gonna achieve things that we can't even imagine.
And that's the scary part, right? Because, here's what I think about when I think about it. We just showed a video just a few minutes ago. For those of you that's listening, I apologize. But it's these micro robots that's now we're using it for advancing ourselves with let's say there's a clogged artery. Now it can go in and it can take that clogged artery out itself. What if AI could now jump into machinery and start creating its own version? Like, let's say it had the capability of finding these microscopic robots and now programming that itself. But the question becomes, how deep has AI gotten into? I mean, I know it's on my cell phone now.
Right. On everyone's cell phone.
It's in my emails. There's a brand new, man, I almost hate to admit this. You're probably going to yell at me, but that's fine, Nick. I ordered a new piece of AI technology that's coming to me this quarter. And the company is called Limitless.ai. Have you heard of this company?
I haven't, but so far I don't see why I'd be upset. I like AI.
I love AI also, but here's what Limitless AI does. It's a company, and what it does is it's a wearable.
Right.
A wearable AI. And it's basically like a pennant to a degree.
Oh, I think you've mentioned this to me before, right?
Nope. So I ordered that one also. That one's called Friend AI. It's a different one.
Yes. Sorry.
I've ordered both of these.
Yeah, you really do love AI.
I love AI. And I use AI every day, just to be fair. But Limitless is like you can wear it as a chain, like a pennant, or it's magnetic and it's clips. And you can clip it to your clothing. And what happens is it's always sitting wherever you put it. So it's like a microphone.
Right.
But let's say you and I are having a conversation. It's listening to that conversation and is creating a summarized notes of what's going on. Now, the cool part is twofold. And I know in your line of business, one of your concerns is who can get this data information.
Right. Yeah, we're very concerned.
So this company, it's all locally held on a device.
Okay. Well, I like that.
So no one can access it but you.
Right.
They have a cloud feature also, and that cloud feature will be to where it's totally encrypted. So your work can't get it, government can't get it, spouse can't get it, nobody can get it. It's just you.
Well, let me ask you a question, though.
Yes.
Does it tell you what the encryption level is right now?
I'm sure they did, but it's probably over my head.
The reason that I'm asking is because most common encryptions these days, hackers have stopped using databases they steal because quantum computing has become a real thing now. Oh. And what used to take 500 years with the top computers to crack can soon be cracked in under 6 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So we got to be careful about that kind of thing. We could have had data stolen years ago that will only be used next month against us. But anyway, that's kind of a tangent, but that's something to look out for.
Well, here's what's crazy, because we're talking about AI and replication and what that can cause for someone. Here's the interesting thing. You can already, even though I ordered this and it's not coming until at some point in time this quarter,
right?
I can still put their software on my computer.
Right.
And the interesting part about that is it reads every single email, every single thing that's on a computer, and they guarantee that it will write emails exactly like you do.
Oh, really?
And you can accept whether you want it to send it or not. But the moment, like, let's say somebody says, hey, I need this project for X, Y, and Z based on this data, blah, 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 blah. It'll look at all your information, write the email for you.
Right.
And then all you have to do is look at it and go, yep, I mean, that's how I'd write it. And you can hit send.
See, that's really convenient.
Really convenient.
What you're just talking about made me think of another use for AI, and I wonder if it's happening now. I don't know.
Yeah.
AI anti-hackers, AI white hat hackers, because the AI can think so much quicker than us. Could it sit on your server and deny entry attacks?
I mean, I would assume someone's thought of this.
Yeah, it must be happening right now, I'd assume, right?
I would assume so.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that turned into Skynet. So we'll see.
Well, limitless AI, you should look into. Here's the other crazy part. If me and you were talking, right?
Right.
Or let's say I had it on this podcast right now. It hears the word you say or the words you're saying. It doesn't acknowledge it because you've not given permission to speak.
Oh, wow.
Or you've not given it permission to accept your speech into its database.
Oh, okay.
Now
how do I do that?
So let's say me and you are talking like we're talking right now. And I'm like, hey, Nick, would you have an issue if I recorded this? Because I really want to be able to look at this. And this little device right here, it's going to acknowledge, or it's going to accept your acknowledgement if that's okay for database purposes. And if you say, yeah, Bert, I'm totally cool with that. It acknowledges what you just said.
Oh, okay.
And then from that moment on, not from prior to that, but from that moment on, it will then accept and transcribe what you say also.
What's this thing called again?
It is called Limitless AI.
All right. Do you activate it by saying, hey, limitless or something like that?
No.
Oh. Limitless. Enable self-destruct.
That's what's crazy. But it says it's the world's most wearable AI. It preserves conversations and asks your personal AI anything. So let's say I go through the entire day and my wife Jess is like, hey, don't forget, I got that birthday party on Friday. Boom. It went into the calendar without me doing anything.
Yeah. That's pretty handy.
Yeah. So it's like all the little nuanced things that's just too much that you're just not going to remember. You got a busy day.
Right.
You got phone conversations that's happening. You're in a meeting and you're like, man, there's no way I'm going to remember all this.
You know what is funny that I think we're going to become like legit androids soon.
100%.
Tell me if this ever happens to you. Maybe I'm just exceptionally lazy for a human being.
Sure.
But I'm so used to issuing voice commands to everything in my house.
Oh, yeah.
That I was laying in bed the other night and I wanted to switch what I was listening to something very specific. But I was so lazy I didn't want to talk. And I'm like, I can't believe I can't just think what I want. Like, I'm like, how come I can't just think what I want and it happened now? I'm so spoiled by this. This is what I want now.
So here's what's scary, Nick. The other device I was talking about, Friend AI. Yeah. They have a new prototype that fits right here on your head. It's like a bubble. Okay. It also listens to all the conversations, but then it feeds you information that supposedly is through like bone conduction or something. Really? And it'll like, let's say someone's speaking a foreign language and you don't know what it is. It acknowledges what the language is. Yeah. And then it will basically decipher what's being said in real time.
Man, that's wild. I mean, I know bone conduction is a thing that exists.
But the thought process, because like my headphones, these are bone conduction. This is what I wear every day.
So can bone conduction work through any part of your skull?
So For me, they've got to be right here, sitting right in front of my ears. But like if they're high up, I can still hear it, but it's just not as good.
Okay. See, I don't know a lot about that technology, but I want it to read my mind.
That's what they're saying. Next is what's going to happen is you're going to be, because here's the other thing, right? Look at Neuralink.
Yeah. Yeah. I just actually saw a interview in the last few days about a guy saying all the things he could do with it. And he was proving that it's not following his eyes.
No.
Like he can look away and still control his computer.
Correct.
Like what a huge deal that is to a quadriplegic.
Well, have you seen where they're taking the blind?
And giving them some vision.
They're fixating a camera to like to like a glass. It's almost like glasses, but not exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it feeds into the Neuralink. And what it's doing is it's providing almost like rudimentary vision to where they know, okay, here comes a wall, or here comes this, or here comes that. That's
beautiful that they can do that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like we're on the precipice of this kind of technology. Think about all the people those that couldn't hear. We've got the cochlear devices, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's cochlear. Now there's Neuralink working on vision, quadriplegics, which is now they can use computers. And they're even talking about creating the exoskeletons, which will learn how to actually move like an actual body.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention with other advances, we've taken the life expectancy not that many hundreds of years ago from like 35 to, 80 something or something like that. Like that's wild.
But think about it. If we used AI to figure out how to extend life, like with the cancer treatments that we talked about earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, think of how many people die every single year from cancer, which is probably and of course the number one argument is, well, there's no cure for cancer because you can't sell the cure.
Right.
Well, now you can.
You can though.
You're selling the cure in the form of a pill that prevents it from metastasizing and spreading.
I mean, if you're that hard on for money that you won't save a life just so you can make a little money, make it like a yearly pill or something.
Right.
Like, don't be greedy and dumb. Be greedy and smart if you got to be greedy at all.
Correct.
Like,
I don't know. It's super interesting. We're living in a day and age where it's like, wow, how crazy is that?
I know. But you know how you talked earlier about it's kind of scary what AI is turning into.
Oh, yeah.
Some people have different views on evolution, but our previous iterations, we replaced them.
Right.
And it was scary to them. And it's scary to us. But this is nature. We will be replaced by our next step.
Correct.
And I think that's a life that we've created ourselves. Or it's a life that we're entering into and living on indefinitely.
That could be too.
Yeah, I don't find it scary.
They talk about trying to put consciousness into, they've actually, man, I wish I knew he was going to talk about this. There was something that I want to say I watched relatively recently, but it took the thought process of a worm.
Okay.
And they downloaded it somehow.
Okay.
To a computer. And it was literally like a server for this one worm.
Yeah.
And they basically took the consciousness of that worm. They put it inside of a robotic worm.
Right.
And it tried to manipulate just like a worm would.
So it just went on its life like it would have.
Yeah.
See, this is where we've got to get to, like mind mapping our whole thing. But then you've got to think about, have you ever, what's that show they had? Altered Carbon. You ever seen that show?
No, I don't think so.
So traveling between worlds and space in the future takes a long time still.
Oh, yeah.
But you have something called, your body that you're in is just called the sleeve.
Yeah.
And your consciousness is in these discs that they can transfer to another body across vast distances. So they send your digital self into another body on Mars. and you're there in seconds, and then your old one, it's deactivated.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the problem that comes up in that is what happens if they transfer your consciousness and they don't deactivate the other? Which one's you?
Oh, yeah.
Are they both you? Are neither you?
It's kind of like multiplicity, kind of.
Yeah. Like that's something we're going to have to come across, because if we can map our mind into a machine, our existing mind's still going to be there. Which one is you?
See, here's the thing, and this is just me from a religious standpoint. I truly do believe that the soul of whatever it is what makes you human.
Right.
So I think whatever you do with a conscious mind or thereafter.
Right.
You know.
Is the soul the conscious mind, though?
Could be.
And what if it's split in two?
It's like a Horcrux, man. You're like,
yeah, I know. That's kind of what I was just thinking of.
Man, that's crazy. That's a crazy thought process.
Yeah. If you transfer your soul too much, your nose will drop off. That's what we'll be telling kids in the future. Don't transfer your soul too much. Your nose will drop off.
That's doggone right, man. You don't want that. You don't want to look like
Voldemort.
Voldemort, yeah. Voldemort. You know, something interesting that I watched, and it kind of fits in line with what we're talking about. I don't know if you watch the Joe Rogan podcast very often.
Usually when someone tells me about something interesting on there, I don't seek it out much on my own. I like it when I see it.
Yeah.
But I only watch it like when you tell me to most of the time.
Well, there was an episode this week, which was kind of interesting. And I was going to tell a story from it, but this thing that I'm going to tell is not it's not necessarily what I was going to talk about today.
Right.
But one of the things that he talked about was he's a UFO guy.
Right.
And he talks about how there are UFO crafts that runs not off of a person or off of a consciousness. It's almost like it's automated.
Right.
All on its own.
Yeah.
And that some of the crafts are manned aircrafts. But he was talking about how we have the capability here in the States, and I believe other countries can look at some of these devices or these, I guess it'd be like a UAP nowadays, and we can technically make them set down using almost like a telepathy kind of.
Oh, really?
Yes. And it was a pretty interesting guy. And he kind of went through, I don't know how to put it. He went through like these different scenarios, and it was like a 2.5 hour podcast. Like it was pretty doggone long, but there was a series of things that he told. One of them also, he ran into this, it was like an alien.
Right.
And he told a very interesting story about the alien and the interaction and what the alien was doing. But one of the things that he talked about was it was almost through a form of like telepathy.
Right.
And it makes me wonder again, if telepathy is such a thing, and right now we're kind of, it's going back to what you and I was just talking about, right? If the consciousness is in a different plane.
Right.
And I feel like we talk about different planes like all the time, right?
Yeah. It explains a lot of the world we live in, I think.
I think so. I just don't think we have a grandiose understanding of it.
Yeah. No, we don't.
You know, I think we want to.
Yeah.
Or we assume we do. Like how many times has someone said, hey, this is what this is. And then we find out like 10 years later, it's like, no, that's not it at all.
Oh, all the time.
All the freaking time, right?
Anytime someone says something with confidence on a topic like that, you can't really put a lot of stock in it.
Well, and, you know, I got into a discussion with something the other day, completely unrelated, but my exact words to them is the moment that someone tells me that they're an expert,
right,
I have a tough time believing them because I don't believe that anybody is an expert in anything.
Not in the topics we're dealing with.
No,
not really.
I mean, it's the paranormal, right? There's a reason it's called the paranormal.
Right. You're an expert in something that is not quantifiable.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
but that's the thing. Like, you know, it doesn't matter what the paranormal is, whether it's a ghost story, a cryptid, a UFO. We have people that's non-believers
Right.
And then we got people that's like, yeah, absolutely. Like there's going to be people that's going to listen to that story about parallel universes. They're going to be like, man, that never happened. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, but I do have the guy that was on there. His name is Jason Sands. I've got a little small thing and I want to get your impression of it.
Okay.
I'm sharing the screen now. I don't know if you see that or not.
Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Yeah, you're fine.
Gotta do a little switcheroo there. Yeah, I'm watching. Do I need sound for this?
Yes, there is some sound to it. Yes.
Okay. Now, keep in mind when you're playing that, I may not hear you.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can control this audio at all.
Okay.
And I'll pause it. Like if you want it paused or something, just say something because I can still hear you fine.
Okay.
But let's take a little look at this and see what you think of this.
And they had seen this thing and they were all talking about this UFO. So we go in there and there's the video operator. He has us all write our names down, whether we were there and saw it the first week or not. Then he makes us all sit down and watch that video. And he says, do you know what this is? And we're like, no. And then he just said, okay, thank you. And then we, after everybody that was there saw it and wrote their name down, we were allowed to leave. And that was all that was required. And so I was like, well, what was that all about? But then as I'm exiting, this lady that had been sitting against the wall on the far part of this little hut that we were in, and she like grabs my arm and she just says, there's somebody on the range, don't talk to him. And she was really, really freaked out. And I'm like, thanks, strange, freaky lady, got it. And I'm like, whatever. So we all hop out, we get in the vehicles, and then start taking off towards Quartz Mountain, because right at that cantonment area, there's a hard right. There's a hard right that goes off to Quartz Mountain. And about a mile, half a mile to a mile down that road, it's all dirt road up, by the way, there's this guy. It looks like he's wearing a uniform like we are. He got battle dress uniform on. So he sees us and he starts to look like he's running, and he's got this really weird run, like his arms are kind of flailing behind him. It's like he was running against the hurricane wind.
You know what that reminds me of?
The Naruto run there?
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminds me of.
Was he a guy that was like storming Area 51?
That's what it sounds like to me too. I heard that and I'm like, man, that's exactly what that is. 100% that's what that is.
He couldn't have described it better.
He couldn't have.
Than that.
He couldn't have. But it's funny that he said that.
Yeah.
But that's the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that. I go, is that what that's from?
Well, that lady's right. I'm not talking to anyone doing that.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt.
And it was like he was going to fall over at any time. And I was like, yeah, it's a bit windy today, but it ain't that bad. So it looked really strange. And then I began to notice his skin tone looked like he might be hypothermic. And I'm thinking, oh, crap, this dude's been out here. It's freaking freezing out here, because it was a very cold day. And the wind was blowing. It was, those cold days where it didn't matter how many layers you had on. And so as we're getting closer, I'm talking to the ranking guy. Hey, we need to slow down. So anyway, I'm thinking this guy's probably in big trouble. I need to pull off my jacket. I need to give him something to get warm real quick. So I'm starting to do that, and we're approaching. And by the time I get my jacket most of the way off, he's right there at the corner of the front of the car. And
so he looks pale? Is that what you're saying?
He looked like an albino with a very bluish kind of undertone. If you could imagine,
So you're assuming you're immediately associating that with he's freezing.
Yeah, because that's all I could equate it to.
Right.
And then as I'm starting to open my door to try to administer aid to this guy, the dude in the front passenger seat screams he's got no ears. And I thought that was pretty rude.
Could you imagine? Be like, man, you butthole. Listen, don't be talking about the man's ears. Got little small ears.
That's a little rude.
A little rude.
But maybe, like we were just talking about, maybe he's Voldemorting.
He could be. I didn't put that together till just now. It could be, Nick.
You lose your nose, you lose your ears.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what it is, Nick. We just figured this out.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I was like, the guy's in trouble.
Does he have a hat on? He's
got a hat on, and he's got BDUs that look absolutely clean, pristine. And when you're uprange, you do not wear your cleanest uniform. You're in a dirty environment. You wear your scuffed up boots. You don't take them with you.
So he's got clean battle dress uniform.
Everything.
United States military
very
uniform.
Out of place. Yeah, it looks very out of place when I finally do it. But anyway, I step out onto the roadway, and this guy screams that he's got no ears. And I just thinking it's really rude. And then I close the door and I look up and he's got no freaking ears and his eyes are twice as big. And I just am like, yeah, what the hell did I just walk into? This guy's not from around
How
here.
far away from him are you?
Probably from me to
just a few
Logan.
feet.
Yeah, just talking distance.
Okay.
And I'm starting to freak out, but then he starts to talk to me, and it's not my language, but it's coming to the understanding is like coming into my mind about every word he's saying.
So he's actually saying words.
He's saying words, but it doesn't sound like anything I've heard before.
But you're understanding what he's saying.
But I'm understanding. So I know there's a telepathic thing going on here, and it calms me down at the same time because I'm having to respond to him.
You know what that reminds me of?
I sure do. All Color Sam.
Yes.
Yeah, man. This is wild.
When I heard
just
this,
like that.
When I heard this interview and he started talking about that, I'm like, this is our story, All Color Sam.
Yeah, it really is.
How creepy is that?
That they can just calm you down with their voice.
Yes. Like that's insane to me.
That's like telepathic and hypnotic almost.
Yes, 100%. Which tells me again, it has to be almost like on a different dimensional plane that, like whatever that is. But the calming effect, I mean, the only time you hear about that is in like stories like this or vampire stories, which leads me to the fact that maybe these are vampires, Nick.
Maybe. But then again, there's certain frequencies of sounds that calm you too.
That's true.
And maybe they've just got like full control over their vocal cords or whatever.
Well, think about it. Even babies, like, right? They got that white noise that they listen to and it calms them down.
Yeah.
Maybe they know the internal workings of who we are and they're somehow providing that to us.
Right. I mean, I listen to ASMR a lot and sometimes their speaking could just like knock me out just the same as someone hit me with a hammer.
Yeah. How crazy is that? I don't know. I thought that was really interesting when he said that, though.
Yeah.
And he's like, hello, I'm having trouble with my craft. I need some repair material. Do you know where I could find some tritium? And this is what he's talking to me about. And I'm like, you mean titanium? Because I didn't know anything about tritium at the time. But titanium, he's like, no, it's not it.
That's the stuff that emits light.
Yep.
So it emits a weak form of radiation.
Yes.
A rare radioactive isotope of hydrogen with a half-life of 12.3 years.
Oh, that's a really short half-life.
Do what now?
That's a really short half-life for radioactive material.
Yes.
So normally it's in millions of years.
Yes. So think about it. The question I would have is why would they need that? But also, I start thinking about it. Remember all those cases of UFOs that we've seen when someone gets too close to the craft?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them experience what?
A mild burn.
Mild burn, and in some occasions, radioactive poisoning or radiation poisoning.
But it must be in low amounts because it rarely long-term affects them.
Correct. So if you have this lower version,
tritium, I think you said.
Yes. I mean, what if that's why? Maybe they need that for something.
Right. Like maybe it reacts with something in just the right amount.
Right. But the other thing we talk about when we talk about UFOs, they always pop up when?
Right after radioactive events.
Correct. Why? Why all this interest in radioactive material or isotopes? Like why?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, we'll never know the answer, at least in this time frame, unless AI tells us. But it's interesting.
I'm going to ask ChatGPT right after this.
Yeah, it might know. Good night.
Yeah.
You for that stuff? Tritium?
Yep. And I'm like, I don't know where to get.
Oh, look at that. It's used in boosted fission weapons and thermonuclear weapons. Oh, great.
This is what the guy looked like. Pretty close to it.
Yo.
The nose was a little bit rounder on the end, but that was a really good rendition. But yeah, his eyes almost came out to here on the temple.
Wow. And that would freak me out. And so,
which, by the way, I didn't really add this part to the video because it kind of went down a different avenue.
Right.
This thing right here is the spaceship that he said he saw.
Oh, I had no idea what he was trying to portray with that.
Yeah. So this is an actual spaceship that he said he saw this guy at.
I'm going to be frank. I thought it was like a weird model of someone bending over and taking a dump.
I mean, it kind of looks like that.
Like, I was like, why are they showing us this?
Yeah, it was literally the spaceship that he came out of. And he goes into a lot more than obviously what we're going to cover here. In fact, what I'll probably do is I'll put the Joe Rogan episode in the description down below for anyone that wants to hear it. It's like 2.5 hours long, and he goes into a lot of different things. But I found this story really interesting because it rotates into some of the stuff that we talk about.
Trying to find different people that you can connect this being to.
Yeah.
And what is it saying to you while you're...
He thought that was a good idea, I think, or he was like, it made him, he had that kind of, and he wanted to take action, so he doesn't really even say goodbye. He just kind of turns and off he goes back to his craft.
I know people like that.
I know people like that too. That's exactly what I was going to say.
They just walk out, they're done.
Yeah, they're like, I've had enough of this conversation, folks.
Yeah, I've been that alien.
Exactly. But I thought that was riveting. And
that is really interesting.
And I know it fits a lot of our stories that we've told over here already, like all color Sam.
Yeah.
The whole telepathy thing. We talk about even how spirits or demons sometimes will give us information telepathically.
Yeah.
There's something to it. I don't know what it is, and I'm not sure exactly how it fits, but eventually I believe we will figure that out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's very possible that it's all comes from one source and we're hurtling towards that source with our science. So we're going to pierce a veil and it's all going to become a lot more clear than it is now.
Correct. I believe so also. I think there's going to be a whole lot of things that will, especially now, come to some form of an epiphany for us.
Yeah.
It's just, unfortunately, we're not going to be the one that's going to discover it. It's going to be the things that we've deemed smarter than us to figure it out.
It's going to be me in a robot body.
It could be what it is.
This is where you should I'll send you a picture of me as a Terminator.
Hey, that's fair. I can do that.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we've got AI friends that can make us look like that, Nick.
Yeah, please do. That's my dream job. I want to be a T-800.
I was going to say, I was going there, Nick. I was like, you want to be the old, the T? The old Mr. T, as we'll put it?
Very specific T-800, though. I want to be that scary looking metal skeleton.
Man. That's creepy.
They'll put skin on me. I'll just keep taking it off.
Well, Nick, I know we're running out of time. We've actually extended this podcast a little further than probably what we wanted to. There's one more thing that I want to look at with you before we go.
Okay. And
we got to be very careful, folks. So we're going to be a little bit candid here before we go into this story. We are in a little bit of a debacle with YouTube. We have been grounded. Okay. We're trying to figure out how to get out of grounding status.
Yeah. Yeah. We're in YouTube prison right now.
So to give you guys an idea, and I don't think that many of you understand what that means, YouTube can turn off the availability of people seeing your content like this. And a lot of people, unless they log into your channel and specifically look, they may not know. And you may not see this video until months after we release it. It depends on when AI lets us out of jail. But we started doing research when all this happened, and we went back to one video specifically that we believe caused this conundrum.
Yeah. It was a sharp drop after this video.
Yeah.
And we can't say anything about it
even remotely close. Here's what the safest way that I can say it without getting in trouble is the name may sound relatively close to someone's name who might be of like a presidential status.
Right. Exactly. You'll know the episode because it'll be missing.
Yeah, it's going to be missing. We're going to have to take it down to
see if we can appease our rulers,
which is sad. It's honestly sad because we didn't even do an episode on what they think we did an episode on.
Yeah, it just sounds like it.
It just sounds like it.
It's not.
But we've gotten in a little bit of trouble. So going forward, Nick and I, that name is like Voldemort. We cannot say the name.
Yeah. They who must not be named.
Exactly. So I've strategically edited this video a little bit to not say that name.
Right.
So you're probably going to be like, why is it spliced like that? Hopefully it's not too noticeable. But I spliced it because we can't afford to. Like, we're in jail right now. I don't want to go to solitary confinement.
Right. Exactly. The only evidence there'll ever be is there'll be a blank spot between two numbers in our season list.
Correct. Because we're on this is episode 86.
Right.
And technically, once we remove that, we're back to episode 85. But
which is a cool number. So that's fine.
It's a cool number. But I am sharing a screen, Nick. I don't know if you need to load into it.
All right, I am watching now.
And we will show everyone this, obviously, at home. For those of you listening, there should be more than enough audio. There's actually 2 segments to this.
An update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news. And with that, I will turn it over to questions.
So I'm even debating on blurring the name that was on the screen just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
But I think we can all put together what name we can't say anymore for sure. If you didn't figure it out before, you probably know what it is now. But what do you think about that? I mean, that information just came out this week, Nick.
That information is not even information. I think it is pure bull poop.
You know what I find interesting is the person that we can't name.
Right.
They said that they were leaving New Jersey because it was unsafe and that the government knew what it was and that it was not right that they did not tell the American public what it was.
And now we're getting a complete wash around.
Correct.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. And I think a lot of people's pretty frustrated about it.
Yeah.
Funny enough, Jeremy Corbell, you'll remember him. He's the guy that was with Bob Lazar on the Joe Rogan episode. And we kind of talked about that episode a little bit. He's basically the guy that brought Bob Lazar back to the surface. He's kind of a UFO guy. He had some choice words for what was said, Nick. And I kind of want to get your opinion of that also, because I think that's kind of how we all feel.
Yeah, I mean, the explanation is fundamentally nonsensical. I think we all had high hopes for a new era of transparency. Look, for me, on the UAP topic, but also just on a bunch of topics, we're not seeing it in that statement. Let me just give you a little breakdown here. The FAA would not approve research flights without communication with facility heads and same with military bases. You know, did the FAA authorize the ones that buzzed Langley 17 nights in a row? Did they authorize the untrackable drones that infiltrated 3 US and UK air bases? And that was going on for weeks.
Well, that's the thing. So obviously they came to Canada because it was huge there. We talked about that in episode 2.
They can't approve that there.
Correct. Because for anyone that doesn't know, we did 2 episodes on the drones. And episode 2 was simply on Canada.
Yeah.
And we talked about they were in the UK. I mean, so now you're telling me
this is complete malarkey, really.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and he's calling it out. I mean, you know, he's calling out exactly the way that it should be because it is a bunch of crap.
It really is.
You know, did the FAA authorize flight restrictions if they had originally authorized these drones? It's absolutely nonsensical. And I'll tell you, I get reports from people that are actually guarding these critical infrastructure sites. what they're seeing through their FLIR and through their thermal, it's not just traditional drones. And so this is an issue of transparency. We had high hopes. We're not getting it. Remember, these drones were not affected by anti-drone technology.
Yes.
So these just weren't approved tests. It's just a blatant, flat out lie.
And I mean, he's not wrong. Yeah, that's exactly the way I feel about it also.
Oh, me too. I honestly, I feel extra cheated on this because I really did think that we were going to make a turnaround on this.
Yes.
Because I really kind of felt like he does not care about towing the line kind of thing.
Right.
Like I thought he really don't care about that. But then we get this.
But it makes me wonder, is it so bad that we can't divulge it? And if that's the case, what really is it?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the same excuse that's been going on for 100 years now.
That's true.
Like, so, but I don't believe this lie.
I don't believe it either.
Because that organization has nothing to do with other countries.
No.
Like they cannot authorize that kind of.
No.
Bull crap.
Well, that's the final word from Nick on that one.
Yeah.
By golly. Some bull crap. Right.
This is all the work of Voldemort and owls.
Well, hopefully y'all at home, if you've watched this far, hopefully you've enjoyed it enough. You've hit that subscribe button. Help get us out of YouTube jail, please. Send us a file in the mail. Put it in the birthday cake.
Bake it in a cake, please.
But we definitely appreciate everyone that stops by, all the amazing comments that we get. I have a blast reading them, even if they're not nice from time to time.
Well, 2 of those 3 were legit. I gave them that.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, hopefully you all enjoyed it. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. Rate us wherever you rate us. Tell people about us. Click the doggone subscribe button and the bell button. Until we see you on the next podcast.
Right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.